Well, hello and welcome to After the Show. I'm your host, Crystal Vilkaitis, and today's episode is voted by the people. I had a lot of takeaways from Mehru's episode this week with Doodling NYC. I loved our conversation so much, and I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go with After the Show. So I went into the Rooted in Retail Facebook group and I said, do you want me to talk more about tips for hiring freelancers, thinking big and creating bold visions, or applying corporate strategies for small businesses? And the people have spoken. They wanted to know about applying corporate strategies to small businesses. However, it did only win by 1%. 48% said they wanted applying corporate strategies, 47% wanted thinking big, and only 5% wanted tips on hiring freelancers. So I'm really glad that I asked because I actually originally was going to do the tips for freelancers. So this is definitely a reason why you would want to join the Facebook group for Rooted in Retail, because I ask questions in here. We have a lot of great conversations happening as well. So you can just go to Facebook, search for Rooted in Retail and join and take our polls when I ask these things in the future. Now, as this episode is airing, it's November 19th. And so much is going on here at my company. Just last week on 11/11, we announced that the Crystal Media brand is evolving and really moving that brand and kind of dividing. We're doing this kind of division of the brand and really focusing on Rooted in Retail as our centralized brand. And then Crystal Media spinning off to focus more on creative media and producing different types of media, which could be podcasts or events that aren't necessarily specific to retailers. So, with this, it's a big change. For the past 12 years, people have known my business as Crystal Media, but we are now moving forward as Rooted in Retail. And I still have the business Crystal Media, but it's just doing different things. Our retail facing brand is Rooted in Retail. So I'm very excited for that announcement to have come out last week. So in case you missed it, there's a little sneak peek for you. Next month, I'm going to do a solo episode diving a little bit more into why I decided to do this and really talking about the power of change and evolving, because I have had a lot of change over the past couple of months in my company. And personally, I got married. I have a really a packed full episode for sure that I'll share more behind the scenes with you on this journey. I think you can actually take a lot away from my decision and why I decided to do this. But one thing I just want to share is that the success of this show has led to that brand evolution. So I just want to thank you so much for listening, tuning in, sharing with your friends, your retailer friends, or your reps. It really means the world to me to have you here. And thank you for your engagement because the show has just been doing really well. So I really appreciate you. So you'll know us now as Rooted in Retail. We've got the podcast, we have a mastermind coming, and we have our agency. And also tomorrow, the 20th, we have our Cyber Monday deal is launched and live. And this is where you can save 35% off of Get Listed. Whether you join as an annual member or monthly member, you can save. So you can go to rootedinretail.com and click on services and then click on Get Listed and learn more about that service offering for you there. In the show notes, we'll link to an episode that I did last year with Susan Nagin that we talked about the power of Get Listed and why these listings are really important to your business. So be sure to listen to that, especially during the holidays. We want to make sure you have your holiday hours, holiday photos. We could do all that for you. You get up and running in just 72 hours after joining. So take advantage of that. You got to use the code CYBER at checkout to save 35%. This will all be in the show notes too. Okay, so let's talk about how we are applying corporate strategies into small businesses. I want to get my notes up in front of me. And really, I want to look at this as a broad, just generalized business aspect where we're looking at corporate businesses and small businesses. And then we'll filter down a little bit and talk about retail specific, like big box and then retail. Now, something that I'm really excited that you guys voted for this actually is because I personally am going to the National Retail Federation, their big show. It's called the Retail Big Show in January in New York City. And this is infamously known for all the big brands, all the big boxes, heavy hitters are all going to be in that room. Historically, I've not gone to this conference because we work with independent small businesses. But I was on an airplane one day and I felt like I do need to be in the room there. It's been my goal for a while now to bridge the gap between big box and small independents. I think that there's an opportunity for independents to really learn from big stores and implement things into yours to run more smoothly, to grow and scale faster, and to really support you in your small business journey. And so that's why I'm going to that conference. I'll bring a lot of great content back to the podcast for you and for our mastermind members. And I'm also doing these incredible store tours where we're going behind the scenes to big brands, famous brands that you know and you love. And I'm going to be sharing all that on the show and with my mastermind members as well. So that will be happening in January. But by having you say, like, yes, I want to know more how I can bridge this gap for my store, it showed me you're hungry for this information. So I'm glad to be here today. Now, let's dive in. And if you're watching this, I'm looking over to the left to read some of my notes here. But first, something that we've talked a lot about on Rooted in Retail is making data-driven decisions. And that was also a very big topic at my conference Evolve this year. We want to look at the data. There is knowledge in the data, there's power in the data. And so often, it's very easy to make emotional decisions versus data driven decisions. And so, this is where we really want to be informed as far as why people are buying, what they're buying, when they're buying, our website traffic, our social media engagement, what's working, what's bringing people in, how our cost of ads, our return on ad spend, like really looking at all of this data to help us make smart decisions moving forward with our budgets for inventory, our budgets for payroll, our budgets for marketing expenses and advertising, all of those things we really need to be tracking to make sure that we're making informed decisions. And that is obviously something that corporates have to do. They've got these things in place, and it's absolutely things that small businesses can have in place too. Having Google Analytics on your website to track your website traffic, having conversion tracking on so you can know where those sales are coming online, having a traffic counter like we talked about in Dan Holman's episode, I think was just last week or 2 weeks ago, actually tracking that traffic that's coming in, inventory management, like we've talked about with a lot of people on the show. So that is all making smart decisions around the data. The next thing is having employee training programs, ways that we're really developing our people. And I actually just got off the phone this morning with this man who runs the New York City store tours. His name is Dan, and just very knowledgeable guy, super rooted in retail, works with the CEOs of these top brands. And he was telling me that one of the big reasons why retailers want to go on these store tours is because they want to see how these retailers are training their employees and how they're motivating them, because we need to make sure that the teams are happy. We want to retain top talent. We want to find the talent. And that is hard work. It's very hard to do for all of us, small businesses and big alike. These bigger boxes have bigger budgets or maybe more time to interview a lot of people. They might be interviewing a lot of different people. They might have rigorous interviewing processes, but they have a system to their interviewing. They have a system to how they're finding talent. And then once they're hired, there is training programs. And so I think there's probably a big opportunity for small businesses and our retailers who are listening to set up actual training systems and training processes, the whole onboarding of a new employee. What is that experience? Are they just thrown to the fire? I remember I've worked several retail jobs, and one of them was at Legs Haynes Valley Playtex. It was at an outlet mall in Loveland, Colorado. And the first week I sat in the incredibly messy back room and on a little square box TV with VHS videotapes. We put that in the VCR and I watched training videos that were mostly black and white because they were so faded, and just sat there and watched these videos. And it was the most boring training I have ever experienced, where I really got The training was when I was on the floor and I was shadowing an employee and I hands-on, I had to measure people for bras and I had to really learn the product, all the different types of nylons and stockings that are out there. I had no idea how many options there are. It's overwhelming. You might have some of those video-based training and then some of the hands-on, but like, what is the actual experience for your new employee? Is it an experience? Is it unique to you? Do you have certain ways that you're doing things and you call it a certain thing? You have a framework that you take your employees through. So it's really crystal clear. Everyone gets the same training. This is how we say things. This is how we do things. Here's our open checklist, closed checklist. Like, what resources do you have for your new employees? Because that was Legs, Haynes, Valley, Playtex. They had a formula for training. And do I think that it was the best formula? I don't think it was. I think it totally could have been different. But this is where independents and small businesses, I think, just have a one up because you have the ability to do whatever you want. You could change it today if you wanted to, where corporate can't. But corporate certainly has strong onboarding and training. And this is something that these big boxes invest in heavily, is their people, creating the culture, making sure they're knowledgeable and happy and have the right information. So that's such a big one when it comes down to big box and retailers. We want to make sure that we're developing their skills continuously as well. It's not about just the first week that they're an employee. What are they doing to get that ongoing product education, additional sales training? People love to learn. They want to build their skill set. They want to leave your store because most likely they won't work there forever. Nothing lasts forever. People leave. So they might want to go on to the next option and really build strong skill sets. And that's an incredible leader for you to build that within them. I feel like I could talk so much about that. And I definitely want to give a plug for our friends at Whizbang Training. They have brilliance, retail brilliance. Bob and Susan Nagin, who have both been on the show, they created Retail Brilliance, which is a training platform. So if you need a platform for your video-based and worksheets and quizzes and all of those kinds of things for your onboarding for new employees, check them out. They're really great for that. Okay. Number 3 is, and I alluded to this a little bit, but let's go deeper, is just having those SOPs, those standard operating procedures, that this is the way we do this for that. Clearly outlining everything. And this can be tedious, and this might be super detailed, and it could take a lot of time if you don't have any of these things yet, but so incredibly worth it to have your ship running smooth, right? We want this smooth running machine. And when we have solid SOPs that our team, they have to follow, it's going to run smoothly. People want structure. They want XYZ. I understand how to follow that. When our brain doesn't have the black and white, it fills in the gray spaces and people will start doing what they think is best. And this is where the chaos can happen. This is where inconsistent customer experiences can take place. This is where an employee does something and they're actually really proud of it. And you're like, why did you do that? And then you're upset about it. And then they're feeling so down. They thought you would be proud. They thought you were going to be excited. They went home and told their friends, I created this whole new thing and it's so awesome. And the next day they go to work and they're getting written up for it, or their owner is really frustrated. Well, all of a sudden that employee now is just feeling so small, and that you're losing that motivation for being in this store, working, being an employee here, when your idea was just shot down. But the thing is, they filled in the gray space because you didn't have black and white for them to follow. And so it's so critical just for employees to feel like they're performing well. Top performing employees are following the SOPs. And if there are opportunities to add in a uniqueness or flair, especially with the sales team on how they really present and connect with customers, then that can be a part of the SOP. But we really need to clearly outline and identify what we do and what we don't do and how we do it, right? How we do it. The big boxes, they've got this identified. There's often no gray area. It's pretty black and white. The next thing that corporate just knocks out of the park is brand consistency. And this is definitely an area of opportunity for our small businesses. I've been talking about this for years in my presentations. when Canva came along, canva.com, which I'm sure every listener listening to this has used it. I'm sure you've used it. It made it so easy to create graphics, and there's really fun templates in there, and maybe you're feeling really creative today, and so you're wanting to do more gold, and you found this really cool template, and you're gonna use that for event that you have coming up. But then next week, you're designing something for an open house, and it has a totally different feel. And then the following week, we have something that's totally different. Corporate doesn't do that. They've got their brand code color, the color codes that they always use the same colors. They have the fonts that they always use the same fonts. They've got a brand guide that all design and communications must follow. They have a certain way of saying things. I think about Chick-fil-A and they say, my pleasure, when I think they do, right? My pleasure. When you order from them, my pleasure. That's a consistent brand. That's a way of doing something. That was probably put in their training manual for their employees. So we want to make sure that we have ultimate consistency because you should be looking at your store as a brand. You are building a brand that we want people to know your name. You're not the best kept secret. They know your store, they know your brand. And so we want to make sure the way that we do this is we're consistent with it over and over and over and over again. They know who they're seeing when they see your social media. They know who they're seeing when they see something in the local neighbor magazine that you're sponsoring. They know when they're driving down the road and they see you. Like we have to really have that connection so that you're building the brand, something that corporates always have in place. And I'll just add this in because we're approaching holidays. Sometimes we change our graphics so it is holiday themed, right? And we can do some of those. Maybe you have a special themed campaign and it has its own brand look and feel. And maybe you do go off brand a little bit, but you still do have your logo or the messaging is very similar. You're still using the same font, but it is very much a holiday design. Those can work well. But the key is that we do have some sort of brand consistency that pulls it all the way through so people know where it's coming from. Next up is cost control and budgeting. And as we were talking at the very beginning about data-driven decisions, well, this is where budgeting comes into play too, because we have the data, we're looking at the numbers, and we're making cuts or investments based on our budgets. And I am a small business owner and I am guilty where I haven't been totally in tune with my budget and I've been out of whack in spending in different areas because I didn't track it to where I needed to. I didn't have specific budgets set in place for certain things I'm doing. So I just spent money. Like, you know how it goes. You spend, yes, I should get that. Yes, I need this. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, hold on. What's coming in? What can I allocate for this? And really make those data driven decisions and having those budgets. Big box, man, they've got big overhead. So they need to be really focused on a budget in all aspects of the business. So this is an area where we really want to make sure that we are adapting this. We've got our marketing budget, our advertising budget. Those might be the same thing for you. Supplies, our inventory, our payroll. We have budgets allocated for each of these areas. And then we're checking in on them because as your business is growing, then we may need to up the ante somewhere, but then lower it somewhere else. So we're really reviewing these. I'm not an expert in the sense of how often you should be reviewing these. Maybe this is a quarterly review. Maybe it's earlier. Maybe it's a monthly review. You can reach out to the many guests I've had on this show where we talk about numbers and profits. Kathy Wagner is one of those with Retail Mavens to get some more clarity on what the process is for you. But we need to make sure that we do have cost control and budgeting in place. Finally, our big boxes are often very good at customer loyalty. They have these things in place. They're leveraging apps. They're leveraging texting. They are trained. Their team is trained to talk about the benefits of why you should join. They have signage within the store, making it easy for customers to join. There's a nice appeal. You're getting something that's meaningful to get it. And they are focused on loyalty. And so that is so critical for small businesses to really be focused on loyalty. And so often I've heard our retailers say, well, my employee doesn't want to ask for the email address or doesn't want to ask for the cell phone number. Well, then that employee should not be working with you because if it's in your SOPs and that we ask every single customer, and this is exactly how we ask for the email to join our loyalty and here are the benefits. That's what you do. And if you're not doing that, then you're not doing your job. and then you are getting a notice and then maybe another notice, and then maybe you're getting let go, whatever your policy is for that. But we need to make sure that we're getting people into our loyalty program, that we are capturing their information. This is how we're getting repeat visits. So often, independent small businesses are not seeing the repeat because you're not getting the information and then you're not properly marketing to them enough afterwards. And that's also so critical where these big boxes, they've got automation in place and they've got teams on it who are making sure that we're sending the right communication to the right people at the right time. And then they automate that. So a trigger happens when somebody does this, then this email is sent or this text is then that happens and now this is sent. Now, you don't have to be that sophisticated. You can use a platform like oneshopretail.com that has that loyalty built in. You can start adding some of those automations to ensure you're connecting to customers and driving them back in. Loyalty is just such a big, huge one. I said we going broad. Those are really broad, but we definitely narrowed in on how retailers and big boxes are doing some of this as well. From a customer experience perspective, if we get a little bit more narrow on what you can be doing, this is where I think you shine. And I've talked about that a lot on the show. Independence, you have your community, you are a place of gathering. And so we want to make sure we're leveraging that to our benefit. Big boxes can certainly do that too, and they do. They have events, they have organized things for the community to go and do and be a part of. It is definitely different when it's a local business. And the vibe is different, the energy is different. We're typically not seeing a DJ at a Target, but we could totally have a DJ at our local gift shop and do some really fun things. So really having things that make this experience unique, connected, interesting, special, whatever that works for your brand, connected back to who you are and who your customers are. There's a feeling you're trying to create and that connection. And we're pulling that all the way through our experiences, through our events, through our content online. It's the full picture of our experience that you have the opportunity to really win, in my opinion. Where big boxes from a retail perspective are a little more general, where they have like specific signage to help call out when I'm in store, layout, actual store layout, and placement of things that are very strategic to create a seamless customer experience while I'm shopping in your store. And those are absolutely things that you could do as an independent too. That makes me think of Kaiser and Bender, our friends over there who teach store layouts and can do store makeovers with you. So reach out to George and Rich at Kaiser and Bender. They can help you. We'll link to all these people, by the way. All right. Inventory management, we talked about that. That's very retail specific. We want to make sure those things are in place. Seasonal promotions in your marketing calendars. Big boxes are often looking way ahead, quarter at a time, 6 months at a time, or a year at a time. Now, I think this is an area of opportunity for independents to look not quite as far out, maybe not the year, but like often we're looking 2 to 4 weeks in advance. So if we're planning a quarter, maybe a month or two ahead, it gives you the chance to really think about those promotions. So perfect example of this for me. We have our mastermind that's rolling out in January. I've known about this mastermind now since September. So I've known that I'm launching a mastermind and we're taking our current insider membership and everybody in there's grandfathered into the mastermind and we're changing the experience and it's going to be connected. I'm just like, I know since September, this is when it was born, but it's not coming until January. And I'm only starting to talk about it here in November. But it gives me time. I'm looking ahead and it's given me so much time. This mastermind has evolved. I've added things. I've taken away things. I'm getting really clear on what the best experience is going to be for our retailers in this mastermind and what I want to bring to it. What I think would be fun and impactful and next level. Things I'm not seeing out there. I want to provide that. That wouldn't have happened without this time to let it marinate and think about and explore and research and just sit and journal about, which, by the way, I had a really great journal session about it this morning. I'm so excited for our mastermind, which, by the way, you could get on the wait list, rootedinretail.com/waitlist. We'll join you there, and then you'll be the first to know when this is live in January. But that's a perfect example. If you have a big event, like let's say it's your 50th anniversary sale next year, or not sale, but your 50th anniversary is next year. Start planning now. Maybe it's in June. What are we doing for it now? And then it gives you months to think about what if we added that? all of a sudden too, like you meet somebody, ooh, I could add that to my 50th anniversary. Or you see a different campaign from a totally different type of business and you're like, that's a really cool idea that I could tweak. Give it time to percolate, to evolve, to like really get to this place. And I don't know if percolate was the right word. So now I'm rethinking that, but give it time to breathe and really grow into what it can be. And that's where big boxes have more of that time versus small. So I'm going to leave you with those items. We went a little long on today's after the show. These are meant to be around 10 minutes, but we had a lot to talk about. We had a lot. And because this was voted on by the people, I wanted to give the people what they were asking for. So thank you to those of you who voted. It truly means the world. I will do more of this in the future so I can get a grasp for what you want to hear, because that's what I want to do. I can talk about all sorts of stuff, but I really want it to be something that you're looking to learn. If there are any topics or guests that you'd love to have on the show, please let me know. You can email them at info@rootedinretail.com. And I am just rooting for your success. So we talked about a lot of things today. Start with one thing, one area. Where can you improve? What's the weakest link from what we just talked about? And how can we make that much stronger and focus there? And here's the deal. We might not start working on this till January because I know it's holiday season, but put a date on the calendar of when you're going to start working on it. Hold yourself accountable, get it done. I'd love to hear an update from you on how it's going, which you can share in our Facebook group. And I'm rooting for your success. I'll see you on the next show. Have a great week ahead. Bye. Okay, I have exciting news to share. The Rooted in Retail Mastermind is launching this January. It's your chance to connect deeper with me, the retail pros from the show, and an incredible community of resilient retailers, both online and in person, with several meetups throughout the year. Get on the waitlist at rootedinretail.com/waitlist. And don't just listen to the show, be a part of the magic and grow your store with us. I hope to see you there.